Since the dawn of time, a sentient monolith with immense power known as the Construct has existed. The first beings in the Dark Aether heavily worshipped the Construct. Within the Dark Aether, there were beings of power called Elder Gods. It was these beings that the Construct toyed with by granting a chosen individual a fraction of its power. The chosen Elder God would become an all-powerful and wield the title of the Archon. These Archons did many good and bad things. The first Archon used its powers to wipe out a parasitic species that threatened the Dark Aether. The fourth Archon decided to use its powers to blow up a moon in the Dark Aether. The most powerful of these Elder Gods is one of a royal clan, that member being Cortifex the Deathless. Unfortunately for the royal clan, Cortifex was very power hungry. He would end up killing his parents and becoming the Lord of the Dark Aether. Cortifex would go on and get married to another member of the royal clan, Syraxis. Syraxis would eventually have Cortifex's child, which did not make Cortifex happy at all. In response, Cortifex took his child and subjected him to an unknown fate due to the fear of him one day taking the title of Lord of Dark Aether. After this, Cortifex forces Syraxis to wear the mask of the Sisters of Agony, forcefully removing all her memories. It was from this point on she would be known as Syraxis the Shadow. Cortifex would then petition the Construct to become the next Archon. He would then be refused, which created an obsession with becoming the next Archon. During this obsession, he would prevent anyone from petitioning the Construct. He did this by sending his assassin group, the Sisters of Agony, which consisted of two members, Zabala the Deceiver and his former wife, Syraxis the Shadow. The Dark Aether had an opposite realm. Think of it as a coin. The head side was the Aether, while the tail side is the Dark Aether. The Aether was destroyed, sending not just everything in the Aether, but also important objects such as the Mystery Box and Pack-a-Punch to the Dark Aether. This entire time, the other gods thought the Dark Aether was the only world. Their reality was thrown upside down. When Cortifex got word of these objects, his hunger for power deepened. He sent his general, Nordicus the Conqueror, to investigate this new world and prepare to conquer it. The world they discovered was Earth. The Elder Gods planned to make artifacts that they can spread throughout the earth, to merge the creator of said artifact with a human who wields with it. 5 of these artifacts were made by Cortifex and his army. Cortifex created a scepter, Syraxis would make a dragon idol, Nordicus would create a horn, and Victor the Destroyer would create a sword, and finally Belikar the Warlock would create a mask. After the creation of the artifacts, Cortifex would start the Nether Wars, which was a plan to crush all his enemies and claim the Dark Aether as his. Cortifex and his head general, Nordicus the Conqueror, would do exactly that, lead Cortifex's army to conquer the entire Dark Aether. The plan was going very well until they stumbled on an Elder God clan that had one member left. This Elder God was named Verkana the Last. It was Cortifex's scribe, Belikar the Warlock, who met with Verkana the Last and came up with a plan to end Cortifex's reign. It was one by one that all of Cortifex's allies started to team with the resistance, including Invictor the Destroyer and his own general, Nordicus the Conqueror. Eventually, after the Civil War, Cortifex is stripped of his title, Lord of the Dark Aether, and trapped in his artifact on Earth. However, he was not the only one to share this fate. Syraxis, Belikar, Invictor, and Nordicus were all trapped in theirs as well. They were all on Earth waiting for humanity to stumble across these ever so powerful artifacts. At an unknown date in the future, a cult called the Societe Occult was formed. The cult makes contact with Dark Aether entities such as Cortifex and Nordicus. The cult would eventually write a Dark Aether rune magic spellbook called the Tome of Rituals. The cult will become some of the richest people in Europe at the time. Later down the line in 1770, a man named Josiah Shem and his cult would move to the Appalachia area and steal native land. This land would later be called the town of Liberty Falls. Not only did Josiah Shem steal the natives' land, but he stole all their possessions, and of these possessions was a talisman called the Horned Key, which the natives used to communicate to their goddess of death. In 1810, Josiah Shem and his cult would perform a ritual and call upon the natives' goddess of death, who turned out to be Cortifex the Deathless. When Josiah Shem wishes for immortality, the ritual breaks and tears a hole in time and space, trapping Shem in a time loop of searching for the Horned Key forever. Another big time jump to the 1920s, where something happened with the Societe Occult causing the leaders to tear up the Tome of Rituals and spread its pages around the globe. On September 1st, 1939, World War II starts, and Nazi Germany is very busy. A part of the SS called Die Wahrheit, which is led by Wolfram von List, to plunder and find artifacts to prove the existence of the Aryan race. Von List goes to the University of Leipzig to meet with a professor of demonology named Gabriel Croft. Von List attempts to recruit Croft to help him, but Croft bravely declines. Von List does not like this answer, so he shoots and kills Croft's assistant Franz. Croft is taken to an SS prison with other archaeologists and tasked to find artifacts that prove the Aryan race. On August 3rd of 1943, Project Endstation was created as part of the Nazi Germany nuclear weapon project, Uran-Wieden, under the authorization of Dr. Kurt Diebner. The director of this project is Dr. Ulrich Vogel and is tasked with creating a particle accelerator. On March 7th of 1944, Dr. Vogel and his assistant, Dr. Lucas Kurtz, attempted many trials with the particle accelerator, but on the 12th attempt, they tore a dimensional membrane between the Earth and the dark Aether. This caused creatures to pour out of the newly opened rift. The outbreak is eventually contained, but the damage is far worse than they could have ever imagined. Due to the tear in the membrane, an artifact in the possession of the Die Wahrheit activates. On that same day of March 7th, 1944, Wolfram von List gets his hands on the now activated artifact and creates a bond with the artifact's creator, which just so happens to be the infamous Cortifex the Deathless. Von List gains Cortifex's ability to raise the dead and goes to the remains of the Battle of Stalingrad to raise the dead. Croft escapes and traps himself with the Tome of Rituals in a building and sends an emergency signal to the Allies, who send in the Special Forces. Cortifex catches wind of this and uses his containment spell on the Special Forces and forces them to bond with the other four artifacts. After bonding with a human, Belikar the Warlock sends a message to Elder Gods for help, which gets received by Verkana the Last, who creates her own artifact and teleports the Special Forces to Egypt. Meanwhile, Dr. Ulrich Vogel is ordered by Berlin to continue studying the rift he accidentally opened. What he learned was there was radiation leaking from the rift, turning the workers of Project Endstation into zombies. On March 16th of 1944, Dr. Vogel made his breakthrough, discovering what made the workers turn into zombies. The source was Etherium, which naturally comes from the dark Aether. Eventually, on April 3rd, Dr. Vogel creates a decontamination machine that can remove Etherium from infected workers and restore brain functionality. After the Nazis' loss in Normandy, Adolf Hitler himself orders Project Endstation to weaponize their findings. Dr. Vogel creates two machines, one that summons and harvests Etherium from creatures from the dark Aether, and the other machine was to convert Etherium into energy that could open portals to the dark Aether. The German government approves the idea to send a small Nazi army into the dark Aether in case the Nazis lose the war. Back with the Special Forces, who are now in Egypt, they find Cortifex's former commander named Decimator, who has now been fused to his shield by Cortifex. They free Decimator from his shield, who now pledges to help the resistance against Cortifex. Within the desert, the Special Forces find the rift to the dark Aether. They travel through the rift and are attacked by the last member of the Sisters of Agony, Zabala the Deceiver. Zabala is killed, and upon killing her, the Special Forces find a page to the Tome of Rituals. The Special Forces head to Okinawa, specifically to Die Wahrheit's outpost. They are there for two reasons: to find an artifact made by Syraxis to separate a human from its artifact's elder god, and restore Syraxis' memories, which were erased by Cortifex. After a bunch of rituals, Syraxis gets her memories back, and the artifact is found to be a mirror. It is broken, but it is later restored by Gabriel Croft. The Special Forces scramble back to the Egyptian desert to finally confront Wolfram von List. They use the mirror and split him and Cortifex, but Cortifex is now free. He now petitions the Construct. The Construct toys with Cortifex and tells him to abide by its rules and let the Special Forces complete its trials. Von List is teleported to Croft, and Croft questions Von List about his lover, who is being held captive by Von List. Unfortunately, Von List explains that his lover has been dead for months. Upon hearing that, Gabriel Croft shoots and kills Von List immediately. After the Special Forces complete the trials, and they are sent to the Dark Aether to battle the new Archon, Cortifex the Deathless. After a very long battle, the Special Forces kill Cortifex, and his corpse falls into the bottomless depths of the Dark Aether. The Soviet Union discovers the Project End Station facility and documents their interactions. While filming, they enter the facility and are brutally attacked. A Soviet cleaning crew comes in and forces Kazimir Zykov to enter the facility and shut down the particle accelerator. Zykov is trapped in the dark aether and turns into an elder god called the Forsaken. Due to the loss of his lover, Gabriel Croft vows to stay away from the occult and demonology. He wants to become a family man, and in 1956 he does just that. He adopts a boy named Edward Richtofen, who appeared from the opposite realm after it was destroyed. Eddie has no memories from the opposite realm. Many years later, in 1975, during the Vietnam War, Eddie Richtofen enlists in the U.S. Air Force and is known as the Blue Baron. Eddie meets a CIA agent named Kruger, who offers Eddie a CIA job dealing with human intelligence. Eddie meets Kruger's secretary, Mary, and the two fall in love and get married. A few years later, Eddie and Mary would have a child named Samuel. The family would move to Germany and live a normal life. Mary finds out that Kruger was doing highly illegal activities and starts gathering evidence against him. Kruger finds out what Mary is doing and contacts the CIA to have her silenced. Order is given to a German CIA agent named Samantha Maxis to relocate Mary and Samuel. Before she can give the order, Kruger pretends to be Samantha Maxis and tells CIA agent Gregory Weaver to assassinate Eddie. Weaver goes to Germany with the intel that Eddie is in the house. Weaver sets the house on fire, but instead of killing Eddie Richtofen, he kills Eddie's wife, Mary, and his son, Samuel. Kruger reaches out to Eddie, blaming Weaver, thus starting Eddie's craving for vengeance. A Soviet group called the Omega Group is created to weaponize the psychic phenomenon for the Soviets. Omega Group secures the Project End Station facility, and with the lead of William Peck, an effective United States scientist, and lead scientist Alexandria Valentina, who is the daughter of now deceased Ulrich Vogel, the two reactivate the particle accelerator, and tons of dark aether breaches open up around the world. This causes Omega Group to be overrun by zombies and have to evacuate. The CIA finds out about Omega Group and creates the Office of Requiem and appoints Eddie Richtofen as the director. Eddie himself creates the team. The team consists of Gregory Weaver, Dr. Elizabeth Gray, Major Mackenzie Carver, and a former Project End Station scientist, Dr. Oscar Strauss. Thanks to intel from CIA agent Samantha Maxis, deploys a strike team to power off the End Station particle accelerator. The strike team succeeds and is exfiltrated by the infamous Raptor 1. Samantha Maxis meets with Soviet Special Forces member Sergei Ravenov for intel about Omega Group. Maxis learns that they are at a former firebase in Vietnam testing with opening, dark aether rifts, and teleportation. Maxis and Ravenov's meeting is intercepted, and when Maxis goes to Vietnam to spy on Omega Group, they catch her, and William Peck himself sends her to the dark aether. In doing so, a massive rift to the dark aether is opened, and everyone working in the firebase outpost, called Outpost 25, is killed by zombies. Out of the survivors, William Peck locks himself in a room and contacts Omega Group for help. Requiem learns that Maxis was kidnapped and beeline it to Vietnam to rescue what they think will just be Maxis being held hostage. They are met with Ravenov, whom they are forced to trust for the well-being of Maxis. They find Peck, who is out of options, and agree to free Maxis. All he needs is power to be turned on in the entire outpost. Requiem bites and desperately does as Peck says. When power is turned on, Peck immediately betrays Requiem and sends all his information and research to Omega Group's HQ. Requiem finds out that Peck was working on a truth serum. They create it and use it on Peck. Peck starts hallucinating, and after a dance with his dead wife, he explains that Maxis is trapped in the dark aether. Requiem uses one of its dimensional distributor satellites, because they just have one of those, to open a rift to the dark aether and free Maxis, who now has developed dark aether powers, Gabster memories, and PTSD. While leaving Outpost 25, they have to fight a weak species of Elder God called an Orda. Upon killing it, Ravenov reveals there are dimensional breaches in the Ural Mountains and he must head there. A small Requiem strike team is deployed in the Ural Mountains to study dark aether and get the upper hand on Omega Group. Valentina starts receiving visions of her father, Ulrich Vogel, telling her to have faith and look forward to their soon reunion. Kazimir Zykov reveals his identity to Requiem and claims he's been helping them by guiding them and their team through the use of Pack-a-Punch and Perca-Colas. Almost all of Requiem seems awfully suspicious towards Zykov. Carver thinks listening to Zykov is the best option they have. 2 months later, Valentina is visited once again by her father, who assures her their plan will happen soon. The director orders Weaver to send Maxis to additional testing. Maxis arrives at Block 8 and is now tortured and experimented on by the director himself. In the late days of December, the director, also known as Eddie Richtofen, founded Project Janus in an attempt to bring back his deceased family. He allocates some of Requiem's resources and even uses Dr. Elizabeth Gray's and Oscar Strauss's own research without them even knowing for his project. While in Berlin, the CIA intercepts information on Project Janus, and the information is written down. Using a blueprint Gray created, Richtofen creates a self-aware robot named Klaus, whom he commands to go to Berlin and destroy any evidence of Project Janus. Klaus kills CIA agents and succeeds in his mission. CIA agents find the bodies and deactivate Klaus. Valentina breaks away from Omega Group and reveals she is Ulrich Vogel's daughter and heads to Berlin under her father's instructions. She plans to free her father from the confines of the Dark Aether. Omega Group, which Zykov has contacted, plans to free him to use him to help contain the Forsaken to use as a weapon against the West to end the Cold War. When Valentina makes it to Berlin in the following month of January, she opens a portal to the Dark Aether to meet her father as promised. She sees her father, who reveals he is actually the Forsaken and her father is long dead. The Forsaken grants a gift of ascension to Valentina and she becomes a red Ethereum crystal-like being with some of his powers. Requiem's elite strike team is deployed to Berlin, but Omega Group is already there and they already have leverage. Omega Group has Requiem's infamous exfil squad, Raptor 1, and is willing to free them if the strike team helps them with what they want in Berlin, which is to capture and kill the traitor Angelika Vogel, formerly known as Valentina. Out of options, they accept the conditions. Klaus is restored, and with him, they find parts from Project Endstation Lab. The only option they have is to create a small nuclear inversion warhead using resources from the creatures of the Dark Aether to defeat Valentina and close the portal of the Dark Aether. While they are almost done with the warhead, Valentina emerges from the portal with a small army of the Dark Aether. The strike team fights off the army and is able to defeat Valentina. Klaus realizes his purpose and takes the completed warhead and brings it into the Dark Aether, detonating it and killing himself to close the portal, ending the outbreak in Berlin. Kravchenko, the leader of Omega Group, allows the strike team to secure Raptor 1, but not without a price. He attempts to assassinate the strike team, but they are saved by none other than Samantha Maxis, using her new Dark Aether powers to open up a portal and bring the strike team to Block 8, where they are met by Weaver and Sam's dog, Natso. The director sees everything that's happened and continues with his plan of Project Janus. So far, everything is as he wants it. Peck triangulates Zykov's position, and funny enough, he's at the Omega site known as Test Site Anna in Ukraine. At this time, a huge Dark Aether vortex is starting to appear over Test Site Anna. Measurements are now being made for Omega Group's endgame. Peck designs and creates the Forsaken Containment Unit and an Ethereum-powered turret to weaken the Forsaken. Kravchenko is plotting on where to unleash the Forsaken. Such locations include New York, Washington DC, Afghanistan, London, and Berlin. But Requiem understands they are behind and prepares to defeat the Forsaken using Strauss's new Ethereum neutralizer. They are also prepared to use Samantha Max's Dark Aether powers. Sam knows she can die, so she tells Weaver she forgives him for sending her to imprisonment and tells Weaver her experiences being tortured by the director. In the end, Sam assures Weaver that even though she has changed, she is still a good person. Sam also writes to her very close friend, Dr. Gray. She's saying she misses Gray and hopes everything is doing well. She also wishes, if she does not make it out of the final battle, to take care of her dog, Natso. Ravenov contacts Weaver, telling him that he has leaked information that it's all going down at Test Site Anna in Ukraine. Requiem gets the okay to send the strike team to Ukraine and put the end to Omega Group and free Zykov. Oscar Strauss makes a voice memo explaining how his insomnia has come back and his overall fear that the world will come to an end. In the end, he compares his own struggle to the one of Gabriel Kraft. The director approves that Samantha Maxis is responsible for taking the strike force to Test Site Anna using her powers. It's during this time that the director receives a memo from a secretary stating that the new test site has been found. This test site is a small town in West Virginia, and she cannot wait for his arrival. On June 4th, the final mission for Omega Group and Requiem starts. Kravchenko and Peck stabilize the portal to retrieve Zykov, but just in time, Samantha Maxis teleports the strike team to Test Site Anna. Kravchenko reveals it's too late, and almost on cue, Zykov walks out of the portal. He thanks everyone for freeing him. Once freed, he takes off his gas mask, revealing he is the Forsaken, and immediately floods the place with zombies. In a panic, Peck mistakenly shoots a gas line, exploding himself and Kravchenko. Samantha Maxis fights the Forsaken but needs help. The strike team uses Pack's Ethereum turns to weaken the Forsaken. While weakened, Sam sacrifices herself by flying into a giant vortex in the Forsaken's core. Extremely weakened, allowing it to be captured in the Forsaken containment unit and taken away to an unknown location by Requiem. After this, the director immediately dissolves Requiem and reveals himself as Edward Richtofen and throws Carver, Gray, Weaver, and Strauss in prison to keep them quiet. Everything was planned out by Richtofen. He manipulated both Omega and Requiem to get exactly what he wanted. Around 1988, Richtofen creates an AI assistant named Sam, using Samantha Max's memories to help him with his master plan, resurrecting his wife and son. Richtofen starts with cloning, using the DNA of his family on an island in the Philippine Sea called Terminus Island, the same location where the former Requiem members are being held in prison. The cloning succeeds with his son, but Richtofen is scarred with the moment of his cloned son's tissue and muscles starting to rupture, turning him into a glob with his son's face. Edward Richtofen himself has to shoot and kill this twisted version of his son, causing depression, PTSD, causing him to develop a drinking problem. In a Hail Mary attempt, Richtofen switches his focus of science to his adopted father, Gabriel Croft's focus on alchemy and demonology. Using Sam and his father's information, Richtofen discovers the Sentinel artifact and prima materia, giving him hope to bring back his family. He writes a letter to Croft explaining everything he needs to find, but Croft denies helping him and claiming he will do anything in his power to make sure he does not even lay an eye on the Sentinel artifact. Richtofen sends Project Janus researchers around the globe to find prima materia. There are reports that the energy source Richtofen is looking for was found not far from his test site in West Virginia. Test site is Liberty Falls, and the energy source is coming from a mansion not far away. Richtofen discovers that in this mansion he can get access to liminal spaces and get prima materia. This mansion is where Josiah Shem and his cult failed their ritual and got trapped in liminal spaces. Richtofen ultimately does experiments and learns how to open and close these liminal spaces with the device. Richtofen contracts the French syndicate to find and locate Gabriel Croft, which they do easily. Out of everyone who interrogates Croft, it's no one else than Ravenoff, who is working for the syndicate to hide from Omega Group and whoever is left of Requiem from finding him. Croft is heavily beaten but does not say anything about the Sentinel artifact or prima materia. In late 1990, a hooded man arrives in Japan and wants a boat to get to the Pacific Ocean. The hooded man takes off his hood and it is heavily scarred William Peck, and he's looking for some old friends. He runs into a syndicate smuggler named Maya who needs to go to the Pacific Ocean to find her brother Nathan. The two are now headed towards Terminus Island. While in the mansion, Richtofen has a nightmare of his family burning alive, and at the same time, a dark aether rift opens up in Liberty Falls. Richtofen fights off a horde in his mansion using a weapon Ulrich Vogel designed called the Wunderwaffe DG2, but is seemingly captured and sent to the dark aether by an unknown force. Weaver, Carver, Gray, and Strauss are all freed from prison on Terminus Island by Peck, who claims he's just doing what he has to do to get his nuclear warheads, which are somewhere in the Pacific Ocean nearby. They find out Nathan was turned into an amalgamation by Dr. Modi, the rector of Terminus Island, the same doctor who tried cloning Richtofen's son. After a fight with Nathan, it is ultimately Maya who has to put down Nathan, who is screaming in pain he needs to be killed. The crew finds a way to turn on Sam and now have to talk to a sentient AI based on their deceased ally, Samantha Maxis. Sam takes control of the submarine and brings Modi back to the island, but she arrives and is eaten by her worst experiment, Patient 13, which is a Cthulhu-looking squid amalgamation. After it is barely defeated by the crew, Sam reveals that Richtofen is after the Sentinel artifact and prima materia for no good, but Sam agrees to help them revive their beloved friend Maxis. The goal for the crew is to kill Richtofen and revive Samantha Maxis. Meanwhile, at the same time in Liberty Falls, a small Project Janus strike team is tasked with clearing the town. While guided by Security Chief John Blanchard, they seemingly find a breach in a church and discover Project Janus scientist Pericles Panos, who needs help getting out of the dark aether. Panos instructs the team to build the LTG device and use it on the device that opened up the gateway. In doing so, they are betrayed by Panos by switching spots with him. Panos is now free with ulterior motives which are given to him by an unknown third party. Through Sam's guidance, the crew heads to France, more specifically the Principality of Avalon. They meet up with Ravenoff, who looks a little older and regrets his time hiding with the Syndicate. Ravenoff leads the crew to Croft, who is in very poor condition. Croft explains to find the Sentinel artifact, they need another artifact called the Obscurus Altilium, which is being guarded by a stone golem. The crew finds and summons the stone golem, and after a long fight, they acquire the Obscurus Altilium and head back to Croft, who is now fatally wounded by a zombie. In his last few breaths, he explains the Sentinel artifact is in a nearby dig site, but the last thing Croft says is that Richtofen is his son, and he begs the crew not to hurt him. With the crew in shock at the big reveal, they gather their strength and head to the dig site. Within hours of their departure, the crew arrives at the dig site, and the Obscurus Altilium connects them to the past to make them speak with the memories of an archaeologist who died at the dig site, Sir Archibald Forrington Smythe. Forrington Smythe leads the crew through his footsteps to find the door to nowhere, which is a portal to the Dark Aether, and they must complete 4 trials. After completing the trials, the crew approaches the Sentinel artifact, but is met with one more trial. The final trial is defeating the Sentinel artifact itself. Once defeated, the crew obtains the Sentinel artifact before Richtofen. Sam explains to use the Sentinel artifact to bring back Maxis, they must go to a town in West Virginia called Liberty Falls. Once in Liberty Falls, the crew heads to the mansion, and once there, completes tasks to power the Sentinel artifact. Once it's powered, they take the Sentinel artifact to Sam, who immediately betrays the crew when she gets her hands on the Sentinel artifact and sends the crew to the same liminal space as Richtofen is trapped in. Richtofen was trapped in this liminal space the entire time. Sam lied and manipulated the crew to doing her bidding, exploiting their hatred towards Richtofen. Once in the liminal space, the crew confronts Richtofen, and he tells them he was doing all of this solely to bring back his family that Weaver killed. Weaver did not know this and feels extremely guilty, but he still has a hatred towards Richtofen. They find the way out of the liminal space, but when they do this, Sam uses the power of the Dark Aether to animate a T-Rex skeleton within the mansion to attack them. After a big fight on the outskirts of the mansion, the group regroups to discuss a plan. Richtofen reveals that Sam has no intention of bringing back Maxis and plans to take over the entire Dark Aether, but Richtofen ensures the crew not to worry because he always has a plan. They now walk towards Janus Towers, where Sam is now located. Now at Janus Towers, the crew debates who they should follow, Richtofen or Sam. Throughout the tower, they see many things, such as the Forsaken, who has become a simple test subject. The crew stumbles upon John Blanchard and Panos, and choose to kill one of them for an experimental ethereal pistol. The crew activates a copy of Klaus, who opens a portal to the top of the 3rd tower where the Sentinel artifact resides. Siding with Richtofen, they now have to fight Sam in an ultimate showdown. Once defeated, the crew is teleported to the Dark Aether by an unknown force, but in the end, Richtofen would use the Sentinel artifact to revive his formerly dead wife, Mary, and his son Samuel. He would immediately drop the artifact and run to embrace his family for the first time in 10 years. All the nightmares, the PTSD, the depression were all worth it. Richtofen has won and finally got the happy ending he fought for. The last thing Richtofen is seen doing is watching the sunrise with his family. While in the Dark Aether version of Janus Tower's lobby, the crew would end up meeting the Dark Aether crew, which is a new version of Richtofen, Dempsey, Takio Masaki, and Nikolai Belensky. The only words are spoken by Richtofen, welcoming them to the party. As that said, a portal